Hi, my name is Paige. Welcome to my channel. So we are doing the give a book tag, which I was tagged in about a year ago by Catherine, who made this tag. And I was just not really filming a lot of videos last year around this time, so I decided to hold off until this year. Also, if you hear a clicking sound, it is a cuckoo clock that I have up on my wall. I thought I would try out a different filming area and forgot that there's a cuckoo clock, but we're just gonna roll with it. I will try and talk louder than the clicks. Okay, editing me, jumping in real quick because the clicking sound is so grating. I almost want to delete this entire video, so I'm giving you fair warning that if you cannot stand the clicking, just don't watch this video. I will totally understand because editing this video is making me want to scream because the clicking won't go away. So I am so sorry. I will not film in that location ever again. It was so bad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If you stick this video out though, you are a trooper. I love you. And again, I am so sorry. I will never film there again. But for this tag, there are 10 questions and it's all about giving books to people for different reasons. So let's just go ahead and get started. Number 1 is to give a book to someone to make them smile. And I am going to go with A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. I read this book on a trip. I think I read it on a plane going to California, and I was in my feels about this book the entire time. It is just so precious. These two characters in this book made me smile the entire time just based on how they cared about each other. So this is about Viola, who was in the War of Waterloo? I don't know if that's what it's called, but she was presumed dead and her best friend is grieving the loss of her, and when she comes back into his life later, they fall in love, and it's just so precious how much they cared about each other. So this definitely made me smile, and I think about this book often and how much it made me smile. So this would be definitely a book that I would give to somebody who I want to put them a little bit in their feels but also make them so happy with just a sweet little romance. And by little, I mean she's kind of thick. Number 2 is to give a book you don't talk about a lot, and I do talk about TJ Klune a lot. I think there's 2 books by TJ Klune in this stack, but I don't talk about The Bones Beneath My Skin a lot. This one is a sci-fi book with some kind of broken men who find each other because of some government situation. But there's also a little girl in this story who is kind of like the pseudo daughter to one of these men, and she is just so funny and so sweet, and the relationship that these 3 people form together and their little found family is just so precious. I was so surprised by this book. I had kind of put off reading it for a really long time, but when I did finally read it, I gave it 5 stars. I fell absolutely in love with these characters, and I also think it's set in like the same world as Green Creek, so it has that same nostalgic undertone that I got from reading Green Creek series. So I really enjoyed this book. I love these characters, and Artemis, Darth Vader, the little girl in this book, is so precious. Number 3 is to give a book you can't stop talking about. And this year I read The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, and then I read the next 2 books in the series, and I can't stop talking about how fucking good this book is. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. But it's just so good. The 3rd book in this series, the final one, is my all-time favorite book, I think, because it just put me in so many feels. I did not predict basically anything that was going to happen in this entire series. I knew nothing going into it. I didn't let myself get spoiled, and it was just a ride. It was so good. These characters I cared about so deeply, and the storyline that just happened surprised me the entire time. So I can't stop talking about it. I keep recommending it. I am begging basically all of my book friends to read this book so I can have somebody to fangirl with. I did find out that one of my cousins, he has read this entire series, so he texts me sometimes about like the newest books and stuff. So I have him to talk to about it, but I need other book friends to talk with me about this series because it's so good. It makes me so happy. Number 4 is to give a book that people are either going to love or hate. And the first book that came to mind when I was thinking about this question was this one, The World Gives Way by Marissa Levian. I also read this year, and the best way I could describe it, I've said it a few times, is space Titanic. So if you've ever seen Titanic, you know that it's not a very hopeful story. You kind of know what's going to happen in that movie, and it's the same way with this. There is a crack on this giant spaceship that people are living on, and there's a lot of doom and gloom in this one, but it's just kind of about these characters and their last days on this spaceship as they know it's going to all kind of blow apart. Their entire life that they were living is all going to go away, and it's just these characters and what they do on their last day and the weird choices that they might make, the sad choices that they might make, and it's just heavy and sad and depressing, and I loved it. I was so surprised by how much I love this, especially knowing that it was definitely going to be a dark story. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. And there are some hopeful bits on it, but I don't know how to explain it. You're either going to love how it ends or you're gonna hate how it ends. You're gonna love how the story progresses really slow and it's very character based, or you're gonna hate that because there's not a lot of plot. So that's why I would definitely give this book to somebody who is either gonna love or hate it. Number 5 is to give a book to somebody who needs to be in their feels. And this is where my second TJ Klune book comes in, because this is Under the Whispering Door. So I read this not long after losing my grandma, and I was definitely in my feels about this one because it is dealing heavily with grief, different types of grieving, different kinds of deaths. And even though it has a light whimsical feeling like The House in the Cerulean Sea, it is definitely still darker than House in the Cerulean Sea. And there is a lot of sadness, a lot of hopelessness in some spots, and a lot of hopefulness in other spots. And I just feel like if you really need to cry, and if you are grieving or have grieved in the past, like, you will relate to some part of this story. So I would give it to somebody to make them cry. But I hope that they would love it, because I felt like it was pretty cathartic to me to get those crying feels out and to just see death in a different way when I was dealing with it so heavily and I was struggling with it. So I love this book so very much, and I hope that people read it. Number 6 is to give a book with immaculate vibes. And I thought about pulling out Six of Crows. I thought about pulling out like An Ember in the Ashes because I love fantasy vibes. But then I thought about Daisy Jones and the Six. I love that book. That has immaculate vibes. But then I thought about another book in that universe that I really love and I don't talk about a lot, is Malibu Rising. And it's supposed to be set in the 80s. I don't feel like it gives off a ton of 80s vibes. There's a few here and there, but I feel like this just gives off what you imagine like California summer sunshine to feel like. So every time people think about California and the palm trees and the beach and the surfing and stuff, I feel like this book encapsulates that really, really well. Encapsulates. Am I saying that right? I don't think I'm saying that right, but you know what I mean. So I would say if you're feeling very summer, like, this one has all of the vibes of summer in California, just exactly what you picture like movie California to feel like. I've only really ever been to Anaheim and Disneyland and a couple of other places, so I don't really have full California experience, but I feel like this is what that vibe is. Number 7 is to give a book to someone who likes to be surprised, and I picked one of the weirdest books I've read, which is We Are Watching Eliza Bright by A.E. Osworth. This is a thriller, but it is told in such a strange way. It is like, it's basically about this woman who is being cyber stalked, cyber harassed, but we don't get to be in her point of view. We are in the point of view of the people who are stalking her and harassing her, and it is uncomfortable. It is disgusting, the language that happens in this book. It is weird, it is tense, because it's these kind of unhinged men going after this woman because she attacked a video game that they like, and was a wild ride the entire time. I would not recommend it if you might get easily triggered by derogative terms for women and just the crazy things that men can do and say to women. But if you want to be surprised by a book, I would say this is one of the most surprising books I have read all year. It was weird, I was uncomfy. I also think I read it in a vlog if you want to know like further thoughts and like more in depth about this book. So yeah, I felt like this would be the most shocking book I could give to somebody, but I don't really recommend it. It was still good, but like bad good. And does that make sense? Probably not. This book didn't really make sense, but it also did. It was weird. I don't know. Surprise! Number 8 is to give a book for someone who needs a little love. And I decided to give them 2 love stories in one. This is Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and that's my second Taylor Jenkins Reid recommendation from this video. But this is about a woman, I don't remember her name, Hannah, and she has an experience where her life kind of splits into 2 different timelines, and we are following both of her timelines and the different consequences and events that play out on both of these timelines and the 2 people that she meets on both of these timelines, and it is stunning. I was in a bit of an existential crisis reading this book. I just really enjoyed seeing how life can play out in 2 different ways, in ways that we didn't expect, in ways that we didn't plan for, and still somehow work out in the end. So I really enjoyed this book. I feel like it's super fun, very different, and it's just a different take on a love story, and you get 2 in 1 for this one. Also, this book has probably my favorite quote of the entire year. There are millions, trillions, or quadrillions, I guess, of different versions of ourselves living out the consequences of our choices. What I'm getting at here is that I know there may be universes out there where I made different choices and they led me to someone else, And my heart breaks for every single version of me that didn't end up with you. I saw that quote on TikTok, bought the book, fell in love with it. It's just so good. So if you want some love in your life, this is a good one. Number 9 is to give a book that is an old favorite. And I don't know about you, but my TikTok has had so many fan edits for The Hunger Games. And I feel like I need to reread this so badly. So I'm here to propose that we reread this series next year. If anyone wants to do that with me, please let me know, because I feel like I need to be rereading this series again, rewatching those movies again. I just need to have PETA in my life again. So yeah, this is just one of my all-time favorite books. I feel like it's a favorite for a lot of people. Catching Fire is definitely my favorite of the series, and I just want to reread it so badly. So please let me know. I will seriously reread this with you next year. Number 10 is to give a book that you think everyone should read, and I have said this a million times and I will keep saying it until everybody reads it, which is King and the Dragonflies by Casey Callender. This is just such a sweet little middle grade book. It is heartbreaking. It is about a boy who has lost his brother and thinks his brother has been reincarnated as a dragonfly, and it's about dealing with grief and also dealing with sexuality at such a young age, about loneliness and friendship, and it's so good. I cried the entire way through this book. It's just one of those, again, cathartic cries that you get, and I love all of the characters in this book so much. I hope everybody picks it up. So those are my 10 books that I'm going to be giving away. My grandpa just got home and I am a little bit embarrassed to be filming here right now, so I'm going to let you go. Catherine, thank you so much for creating this tag. It is so fun. I hope to see a lot of other people do this tag as well for this time of year, and I will see you in my next video. All right, bye.